Welcome back. We are here, week one of the NFL season starting up. We got Chiefs Lions tonight. It's a very big night. A lot of my family are Lions fans. They're excited for this game, especially because it is the first time in a long time the Lions have hopes. But with the NFL season starting, that also means fantasy football. And that means that we have our first week of our Rusty Pipes Fantasy Football League predictions. Now, for the matchups, I like to kind of run through their matchup breakdowns, maybe have like a game of the week. Maybe later in the season, we'll bring in those managers that are in that matchup and have them give their own thoughts, maybe even a secondary analysis. Russ Amadan come in. He used to run the predictions, but he handed it off to me, but I'd like to bring it back on. So for the first matchup this week, we have, speaking of, Russ Amadan and Sierra's Cucks versus Mike Moore and Shazimler's List. It's a tough one to read. So we got a good matchup. I mean, it's a 1 point projection. I normally don't like to go off of Yahoo's. I mean, it's always hard. They always have good players ranked low for some reason. Like Waddle only had a 12-point projection, even though I don't think the Chargers secondary is that good. So I think he shoots above that projected points. Then we got, let's see. I mean, we have Lamar Jackson going against Houston. Houston, bad defense, both run and pass. He's going to score a lot of points. I like the 25-point projection on there. I think the key players for each team will probably be a Cam Akers against Seattle. You know, he's coming into the year with a little more hope. He ended last year very strong, and I think he has a good chance to maybe make or break the week for Mike. And for Russ, I think that his biggest player will probably be Tyler Higbee. You know, Cooper Kupp's out. They got really no other weapons besides maybe Van Jefferson, but he's not that great of a number one receiver. I mean, he's a good number two, don't get me wrong, but Higbee will definitely be a key player for Russ's team this week. I mean, he's going to be the number one target for Stafford. It's going to be a shootout because both teams have bad defenses, but Seattle's got that good offense, so remember that. But they both have other superstars like Mike Williams, Derrick Henry for my dad, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tony Pollard for Russ. You know, they got which Amon-Ra plays tonight, and that'll be a big game to see how this matchup starts out because that's Russ's number one receiver. So we'll see how that one leads off. But I think in my projection, going off of this, I think Russ, he's got the better star power in there. You know, he's got the better receivers. You know, he's got Jamal Williams as a running back too. That's going to be a little bit of a downgrade for him. But I mean, if you've touchdown or two, and that's an extra 6 points on account for the low yardage he'll probably get. 1 yard warrior is I would call him, but Russ squeaks it out probably like 125 to 121. You know, they're going to score above that projected point total, but it's going to be a tight one still. And then next on the matchup, we've got Baby Back Gibbs and Live Laugh Facebook. Now, Baby Back Gibbs was formerly Run CMC or CMC Oreos, run by Smiley, and then Live Laugh Facebook is my cousin Carson. So actually this one's a little more projected on a one-sided affair. We got Baby Back Gibbs projected 125 to Carson's 117. You know, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Carson came into the year with two strong receivers, Diggs and Adams. Diggs is going to have a big game, you know, in that shootout against the Jets. Rodgers is coming to the Big Apple. It's going to be a really good game. And then Adams is going against that tough Denver secondary. He's going to be shadowed by Pat Surtain the whole time. So we'll see how he does there, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing him the ball. Meanwhile, you got Smiley. He's got, obviously, in his name, Jahmyr Gibbs playing tonight against KC. And without Chris Jones on that D-line, he's going to probably have a little more running room in between the tackles. Then you got Christian McCaffrey, his star. Darren Waller, really good tight end this year. I like him. He's all through training camp and preseason. Danny Dimes' favorite target. He's going to get a lot of targets in that game, a lot of receptions, score a lot of points. Mike Evans, he will be the X factor for Smiley's team. You know, coming into the year with Baker Mayfield as QB, uncertainty. We'll see how he performs in this week one because Baker, he's a chuck it or dump it. He either goes deep, which was Mike Evans' specialty, or he dumps it down to either his running back or his slot guy, Chris Godwin. So we'll see how he performs in that first week and how he fares against the Minnesota defense, which is statistically not really good against the pass last year. So could be a good week one for Baker, depending on how he performs. And the X factor for Carson is definitely going to be Deion Jackson. Jonathan Taylor's out this week, which means Deion Jackson takes most of the work, but Zach Moss comes back. That takes away a lot of the receiving work from him. Now, if Zach Moss is out, Deion Jackson obviously takes that over, and he gets a couple more receptions, more targets from Anthony Richardson, except Richardson is more mobile QB than what the Colts have had before, so he's probably going to run it more than he dumps it off. Another big one would be Juju against Philadelphia. He's projected 12.5 points, but I don't like that projection. You got Mac Jones, after that good rookie year, he had a down year last year, except I will give him some benefit of the doubt. You had Matt Patricia and Joe Judge calling the plays for him. Both are defensive guys, shouldn't be offensive coordinators. And they're going against that star-studded Philadelphia defense. It's just going to be tough to get the points, especially Juju coming in from the Chiefs. He's got a really big downgrade from his QB from Pat Mahomes to Mac Jones. So I'm going to give this one to probably Smiley. He's got Herbert going against Miami. It's actually going to be a shootout between both QBs. You got Tua and Herbert playing against each other. So it might come down. Might come down to that, but I definitely give Smiley probably a 130 to 123 win. So not a big blowout because Carson does have a good team, but I think Smiley's just got the edge on him. And then the next matchup, we got Parlay Melee, run by Reej Zimmer, and Suck My Wake, run by Chris Ritchie, also known as the Loader or Durham Dink. So this one, it's a Parlay Melee. He came into the year with, if you saw the draft interviews, he came into the year with a lot of picks, actually decent keepers. He had Josh Allen, and then he had Calvin Ridley, which I like Ridley this year coming into that Jacksonville offense. He's got Trevor Lawrence as a QB, and he's going to take over that wide receiver 1 spot, and he just looked really good in camp. And then he also, in the draft, he has Debo and Metcalf as his wide receiver 1 and 2. I like Metcalf. He's got Geno Smith. I was doubted on him last year. As a Broncos fan, I was a little hoping he failed because I didn't like seeing him succeed and Russ fail. But, I like Geno. He's got a good story, and I like him with Metcalf. They performed well last year, and they got the Rams week 1, which that would be, once again, really bad defensive play. So Metcalf will shine. He'll definitely score above that 13.8 projection. Then he's also got Bijan, the beloved rookie running back in the Atlanta Falcons, playing against the Carolina Panthers. So that we will see if he can perform at his hyped up rookie level or if he just sinks below and maybe he only scores 10 to 11 points, but I doubt that, especially with how much their coach loves to run. Now, the X factor for Regis' team will definitely be Mark Andrews. He's been questionable with sitting out a couple of practices. Some people say it's injury, some people it's just rest. Maybe he had some come up. But that will definitely be, especially against Houston defense. Now, while I said they were bad, a lot of teams last year, especially even Kansas City, their passing game struggled against them because they would get up big and then they would just run the clock out the rest of the second half. So even Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce didn't score a lot that game. So if the Ravens get up big in the first half, maybe Andrews only catches like 5 passes for 40 yards. He's only got 9 points at that time. And with that Lamar Jackson offense, they're probably going to run out the rest of the game. So Andrews, if he can catch a touchdown, he gets that really big game. In the first half at least, that'll be good. That'll be key. But if he doesn't, that gives a chance for Ritchie to come in because he's got Justin Jefferson going against the Tampa defense. And Tampa is tanking this year. So Jefferson will definitely have a really big game. Then he's got Kirk matched up with the wide receiver QB stack. That'll be big. He's also got for my, X factor in this game will definitely be Dalton Kincaid. Rookie tight end. It's a little bit of a risky start, but I didn't see anyone else on his bench that he could have. There's not much free agent tight ends out there. I've checked myself, but that he could have picked up. And I like Kincaid. He was hyped up coming into camp and how he performed. He was looking more like a slot receiver, kind of like even a more slot than Travis Kelce has been. So I like him going in, but he's got that tough Jets defense going against him. We'll see how much he performs. He is slotted as like the wide receiver or second favorite target of Josh Allen behind Stephon Diggs, but we'll see. Maybe Gabe Davis finally hits his shine. We'll see. But even with those question marks on Regis' team, I still give him the multiple draft pick advantage. He had early, and I give him the win 128 to 119. He does have a big gap in the player count, as Ritchie as flex has Zay Jones starting to Regis Calvin Ridley. As much as I love Zay Jones, he did well last year. I had him. He just can't match with Calvin Ridley on that, especially with Ridley looking to be Lawrence's number 1 target. In the next matchup, we have Drone Tree Trimmer, owned by Jay Moore, going against Mixon Aaron's Awaska. I don't know if I pronounced that right, and I never will probably. So this one is looking a little more lopsided. We got Josh, who is on Mixon Aaron's. He is projected 116 to Jay's 105. You know, Jay had a tough, that will probably change because he's still got Travis Kelce in his lineup. Hopefully he takes him out in time, someone better inform him. But I know that's a 0 there. He did have like a 20, like right after the draft, so he was actually projected to win. Now, hopefully, I'll check his bench real quick, see if he's got that tight end already picked up. And he does have Cole Kmet, going against Green Bay. That can go one of either way. He just got paid. Fields does like him. But then again, Bears did add DJ Moore. They got healthy Darnell Mooney. They got more weapons to work with, so they can't just keep going to Kmet. Other on his team, speaking of Fields, that's who he has, going against the Green Bay defense. We'll see if he can keep that momentum that he had at the end of last year going into this year that made him the QB5. So I somewhat believe in Fields. I believe in his running ability, but his passing still needs to be seen. Although he does have CeeDee Lamb and Christian Watson, although Watson hamstring has been flaring up, who knows how well he'll perform. I liked him coming this year, but hamstring injuries for wide receivers, we've seen how that's gone with Cooper Kupp. He's now out for week 1, possibly going into the IR. We also have Jerry Jeudy, who might be out maybe 2 weeks because he had that hamstring injury, and who knows if he tries rushing back, maybe it flares up again. We don't know. But he then has his running backs of Saquon and Isaiah Pacheco. Pacheco can go either way. It can either be that number 1 guy for KC that they've been looking for since Kareem Hunt, or he just goes back into that running back rotation with McKinnon and CEH. I think he's a little overprojected at 12 points, but who knows? Maybe he scores that touchdown, gets that 50 yards rushing. He could do it. Now, I think the X factor for Jay would be Deontay Johnson, wide receiver for the Steelers. He's going against that really tough San Francisco defense, and I do love Deontay. He'll have a much better year. He'll catch probably 6+ touchdowns. He ended last year with 0, and that's why people are probably fading him this year. I tried targeting him. He scooped him up. I do think he will be the X factor. He's got a tough matchup in the week 1. We'll see if he can at least get to that 12.5 point projection against San Fran, but it's going to be tough. Kenny Pickett, we'll see if he can take that year 2 stride, but it's there to be seen. And then for Josh, he's got a good, strong receiver foundation with A.J. Brown and Tyreek Hill. A.J. Brown fell to him in the draft at the 7th pick, but he's got good foundation with Hill and him. I like that matchup with New England. He's going against probably either Jonathan Jones, who's a good corner, but A.J. Brown is a much better receiver than that, and Tyreek Hill, who, as we all know, is Tyreek Hill. He can't really be defended. He's got the speed. He's got the moves. He just scores at will. And as long as he's got a healthy Tua, he'll put up probably 15+, guaranteed. And then for his running backs, he got Joe Mixon, Madison. Mixon, big part of the Cincinnati offense. Rumors that he got cut. He came back, they didn't really pick up a backup, so we know he's going to be the bell cow there. He will have a strong game against Cleveland. Madison, we'll see what he can do without Cook there. He's the number 1, but we'll see if he can perform like managers hope he does. The X factor for this game will also be in Josh's flex, same as Jay, and that's James Cook, running back from the Buffalo Bills. So he's projected 11.5 points. Once again, same as Diggs and all the other Buffalo guys like Kincaid, going against that Jets defense. So he's coming in. Devin Singletary's gone. He's taking that workload. He does have Damian Harris there, or maybe Latavius Murray. Those guys will probably take a lot of the goal line work, short yardage, but Cook does have the receiving game. Now, Josh Allen, while mobile, does have a tendency to dump it off to his running backs. So I think Cook has a good chance to put up some PPR points in this game, but running it, it's there to be seen. At Georgia, he was never a big workload kind of guy. Same with his first early years in the NFL, but who knows? He's coming in as a starter. He's on a really good offense. Hopefully for Josh, he can perform, but I'm a little pessimistic about it. It could go either way. But for this, especially if Jay pulls a classic Jay and doesn't take Kelce out of his lineup, I think this one goes to Josh. He's got that wide receiver advantage. Jay does have Lamb, but besides that, he doesn't have too much more, especially with Johnson going to San Fran. He's a little on the ifs, and then he's just question marks. Saquon, who knows if he can repeat what he's on the tag. We'll see if he can repeat what he did last year. He's going against tough Dallas defense. So he's just got tough matchups all across his board. While Josh, he's got some easier ones with Philly at New England, Tyreek Hill in a shootout with the Chargers. He's going to perform there. That's going to be touchdown after touchdown for both teams. And the only question mark would probably be Cook at the Jets. Madison, I did have a question mark, but he's going against Tampa Bay. So that's going to be definitely a really good game for most of the Minnesota offense. And now for the next projection, we have Juicy Bear, owned by UD, going against this DJ be ETN, owned by Matt Schultz. So in this projection, it's actually split 119 to 119. Now, people may say that and say this is a close matchup, but it's there to be seen because we do have Juicy Bear with Jalen Hurts, T. Higgins, Aaron Jones. He's got a strong foundation base. Little question mark at his tight end with Sam Laporta. I do like the prospect coming out of Iowa. He's on a good Lions offense that just got rid of TJ Hawkinson. Now we'll see that they can hopefully, especially with the absence of Jameson Williams in the first 6 weeks, they can improve on the usage of their tight end because Hawkinson, he had those boom bust weeks last year. So we'll see if they can get a more consistent output, especially with Laporta having a little less of expectations than Hawkinson did. Jones, I'm really high on Jones this year. I think he'll outperform what he's projected. You know, some people may say he's getting older, but I think that as a receiving back, more than that bell cow Derrick Henry, Saquon type thing, he'll be more ready as he gets older, more like an Eckler. Now, he's got Godwin, and just like Evans, we'll see how he can perform with a new quarterback like Mike Evans and not Tom Brady. Now, Baker, he will probably in the first start be a little shaky, but I still trust that he can get the ball to Godwin, especially with him being in the slot, closer to the line of scrimmage. And then he's got Higgins going against Cleveland, you know. Who knows how well the Browns perform this year? Second year with Watson, maybe he finally knocks the rust off, but it's a little tough with Higgins, especially healthy Jamar Chase, healthy Mixon, Burrow. You know, it's those boom busts with Higgins there because you never know. He could have that blow up with Chase, or Chase blows up and Higgins is left in the dust. It's rarely seen that Chase and Higgins, or that Higgins blows up and Chase doesn't. It's either both of them or just Chase. Now, I still believe that he can put up those 13 points he's projected, but anything else than that, it's a little iffy. Now, the James Conner flex, I don't know about it. Washington's got really good defense, especially that front seven, and 14 points just seems like an overprojected. I have them sitting more closer to 10 or 11. You know, it's going to be tough. No QB. They got Josh Dobbs at QB. Who knows how well that offense will do, and most likely it'll be down really early, so maybe he can make up some of those points and some receptions when they get dumped off to him. But I think the X factor for him will be J.K. Dobbins. You know, going against Houston, this is where Dobbins can shine because, like I said, the receivers and Andrews might struggle on the Ravens because they'll get up so much. But Dobbins, this is where it will shine because when they get up, they'll run it, and Dobbins can get those chunk yardage, 10, 15, maybe a touchdown. He can get past that 14.5 point projection. I think that will help UD solidify a win in this matchup. But then he's also got Matt, who's got Pat Mahomes going against the Lions defense that was statistically one of the worst last year. They made improvements, but it will be seen if they have enough to outduel Pat Mahomes or at least slow him down. Then he's got Olave. I love Olave this year. I think he's ready to take that even next step, especially with Derek Carr coming in as QB. He's got DJ Moore, new QB, new team. He performed well in the preseason in the few snaps he played. You know, he had those 2 catches for 2 touchdowns, was it? Although they were screen passes, but he showed he can make plays. He's got D-Hop, who we'll see how D-Hop fares in Tennessee. You know, statistically, that's where receivers go to die. You look at Randy Moss, you look at Andre Johnson, and Julio. But you look at Hopkins, he's a little younger than those guys. So I think he still has the chance to perform well. But I think the X factor for Matt would be Rachaad White, Tampa Bay running back. You know, bad team, bad defense. We'll see how well. His efficiency numbers have never really been good in his first couple of years in the league. But Uncle Lenny is gone, so he's got that starting running back spot. And I just think that he has a chance to at least reach that 12-point projection. But if he can get anything close to 15, that would be really big for Matt. I think the rest of his team can hold it down. He's got Travis Etienne, TJ Hawkinson. I think those guys can definitely perform well enough that as long as Rachaad White can do what he needs to do, they have a good chance to win this thing. But I still am siding with Juicy Bear, winning it probably around 125 to 120. You know, it's going to be, I don't see any of their players exploding too much. Maybe Hurts puts them up to 130, but they won't go too high over the projected, especially with a rookie tight end and a James Conner at the flex. But no, Matt's got a little more question marks. Like, will DJ Moore perform like he did during the preseason? Will Rachaad White perform like people are expecting him to? So it's just tough, but I still give Juicy Bear the win. And now for the final, we have Not So Dangerous, owned by me, versus El Cabo, the defending champ, and owned by Cobb. So right now, Cobb is the favorite, 117 to 112. And then going into this matchup, we got a quarterback duel between Joe Burrow and Dak Prescott. Prescott seems to have a little more of the fair matchup against the Giants. It's going to be, although it's at New York, not at Dallas, but Burrow also is playing against Cleveland at Cleveland. So both have a little tougher road matchups, but I still think Burrow can outperform Prescott. Receivers, it can go either way because, while Cobb does have Jamar Chase, he's got the positional advantage with Chase projected at 20 points against Cleveland. He's also got Michael Pittman going against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's got a really underrated defense, and he's also playing with a rookie QB that is known to be inaccurate. So who knows if he can perform up to the 11.5 point projections. Now, rookie QB, veteran receiver, who's also big. He's a good possession, good route runner. He knows how to get targets, and I still think that he will score a decent amount of points. Meanwhile, Not So Dangerous has Garrett Wilson and Amari Cooper. Both showed that they can be top 12 fantasy receivers last year, although Cooper fell off a little with Watson coming back, but that could also be attained to Watson being a little rusty, coming off almost 2 years not playing football. Wilson going against a tough Buffalo D, but we saw in the couple snaps that he played with Rodgers during the preseason, Rodgers wants to feed him the ball. He could be another Devontae Adams who gets like 160, 170 targets on the year and could just be fed those fantasy points, those receptions, maybe 12 to 14 touchdowns this year. So I still like that almost 15-point projection. I don't see him going too much above that unless he really goes for 2 or 3 touchdowns. They might double team him, especially with the Jets not having too much receivers behind them. I mean, Allen Lazard is their next best option. So we'll see how that goes. Cooper going against Cincinnati. Cincinnati, they lost their top 2 safeties, so maybe Cooper can push more on the deep threat, maybe get a little more across the middle. Rookie or second-year safeties, he could take advantage of that. For running backs, Cobb's got Austin Eckler and David Montgomery. Eckler, I like him as a fantasy running back, good reception guy. He knows how to score points. He cares about his fantasy managers, if you've ever seen any interviews with him. Meanwhile, Michael has Stevenson and Miles Sanders. Stevenson, he's got Zeke maybe taking a couple of the goal line carries away from him, but I still like him as a running back. 13 points seems like a good projection. Sanders against Atlanta. Atlanta's underrated defense a little bit, but I still like that 12-point projection. X factor for both of them is going to be their tight ends. Michael's got Pat Freiermuth going against that tough San Fran defense, and meanwhile, he's got Goddard going against New England. Now, while I really love Goddard, he does have extra target competition. He's got Devontae Smith that broke out towards the end of in the second half of last year. A.J. Brown. They got Hurst that like to run the ball. So he's got not only receiving competition, he's got touchdown competition, especially in the red zone near the goal line. They got a running back rotation of Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell. So, and meanwhile, Michael's got Pat Freiermuth, who also has that competition. He's got George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and it's just going to be tough for them to score even on that San Fran defense. And then in their flex, they both got some unproven wide receivers, I guess. I mean, Sutton has proven that he could play at a high level, but it's been a while since he could do that, especially with the struggles of Denver's offense last year. So Sutton, that could be another really big key proponent for Not So Dangerous to pull out the win. They're going against Las Vegas. Really bad pass defense. Meanwhile, he's also got Cobb as Nico Collins in the flex, but he's going against Baltimore. Really, really tough pass defense, or just defense in total. Rookie QB, who knows if he can perform up to that 10 point. He may be held to just 5 or 6, but we don't know. So, but I still think with, that Chase and Eckler proponent partnership and Cobb's team, I think he squeaks out the win this week with a score of 123 to 116.